They are not coming back to see how things go. I want to be precise about that from the very first moment of this reading, because the quality of what is approaching you carries a specificity that vague language would fail to honor. This is not a tentative return. It is not the hedged, one foot in energy of someone who is testing the waters before committing to the temperature. What the card showed me today, from the first position to the last, describes someone who has arrived at a complete, clear, unhesitating picture of what they want. And what they want is everything, the whole thing, the full version of a life with you, rather than the partial, provisional, carefully qualified version that fear or circumstance had previously allowed. They want the Tuesday mornings and the complicated conversations and the growing old and the watching each other change and the specific, unrepeatable quality of being deeply known by someone who has chosen to know you across a sustained and significant stretch of time. They want the ring, if we are speaking plainly, or the equivalent of it, in whatever form fits the shape of your particular life and your particular love. They want the thing that does not leave room for the qualifying phrase unless something changes, the thing that is simply, comprehensively, you and them and this particular life built specifically and deliberately together. That is what is coming. Let me show you what the cards confirmed. Let me describe what I felt the moment this energy opened, because the initial impressions were immediate and they had a quality unlike the uncertainty or the longing that tend to characterize readings about reconnection. I felt resolution, the specific, settled, fully inhabited quality of someone who has completed a significant internal process and who is now operating from the other side of it with the clarity that that kind of completion tends to produce. This is not someone still in the middle of figuring out what they want. This is someone who figured it out, sat with it long enough to be sure it is not going to change, and who is now simply in the practical process of moving toward what they know. I also felt something underneath that resolution that I want to name carefully, because I think it is the most humanly important piece of this reading. I felt tenderness, the specific, vulnerable warmth of someone who is carrying something precious in the direction of someone who matters to them enormously, who is in the specific state of hope that has been refined by time into something considerably more durable than its early form. This is not someone who is certain you will receive them the way they are hoping to be received. This is someone who is coming anyway, because what they feel has become larger than the risk attached to expressing it. The first card in this reading arrived in the position representing who this person is and what they are carrying as they move toward you. And I want to describe it with the full attention it deserves because its imagery is both precise and significant. This card shows a crowned figure on horseback, moving with complete directional certainty, the quality of someone whose destination is not in question and whose movement toward it is not tentative or exploratory, but deliberate and committed. The water element of this suit governs feeling, depth, the interior life in its most genuine expression, and the court figure at this level represents the mature, grounded, action-taking manifestation of that element, someone whose feeling is not volatile or uncertain, but settled and purposeful, producing actual motion in an actual direction, rather than simply being felt and dwelt upon. What I am reading in this card is the specific quality of someone who has crossed the threshold from feeling something to doing something about it. The distinction matters. Many people carry significant feelings about someone for extended periods without that feeling producing any actual movement. What this card is describing is the specific, relatively rare moment when feeling crystallizes into intention and intention becomes action. That crystallization has occurred. The action is underway. I also want to speak to the number of this card and what it represents in the sequence of its suit. This card sits at a point that is past the beginning but before the fullest establishment in the specific territory of active pursuit rather than early potential or achieved arrival. It is the card of someone in motion, someone whose orientation is clear and whose movement has genuine momentum. They are on their way, not in the metaphorical sense, in the literal energetic sense of being in active directional movement toward you. The second card arrived in the position representing what specifically has changed in this person that makes this return different from anything that came before. And this is the card that I think is going to produce the most recognition. This card shows a great wheel turning, the figures that ascend on one side and descend on the other, the Sphinx at the apex representing the principle that governs the whole mechanism. This is one of the most powerful forces in the entire deck, operating at the level of large, structural, impersonal turning rather than personal preference. The kind of card that describes not someone choosing differently, but something genuinely changing in the fundamental organization of how things are between two people. What I want to say about this card in the context of this person returning is something I think you need to hear clearly. What has changed is not simply their attitude or their feelings or their stated intentions. Something structural has changed. Something in the actual circumstances or in the actual development of who they are as a person has reached a new configuration that was not available before, that could not have been manufactured earlier, regardless of how much both of you might have wanted it, that required the specific passage of time and the specific experiences of the interval to produce. I am sensing that the period between then and now has not simply been time passing. It has been a period of genuine, significant development in this person's life, development that has resolved something that was previously unresolved, and that was, whether either of you fully knew it at the time, part of what made the fullness of what they are now bringing impossible to bring before the wheel has turned, something has completed, and what is coming now could only come now after this specific sequence of events has occurred in this specific order. I also want to speak to what this card tends to indicate about the permanence of the shift it describes, because I think it is important for how you receive what is coming. The wheel does not turn backward. What has changed in this person's fundamental configuration has changed in a direction that is not easily reversible, because it was not produced by a moment of inspiration or a temporary change in circumstances, but by the genuine accumulated completion of a developmental process. The person coming back to you is not the same person who left, not in the ways that matter. And the difference is not something they will grow out of or drift away from when the newness of this reunion has settled into ordinary life. It is structural, it is real, and it produces a different quality of presence than what was available before. Does this feel like it is landing on something specific, Virgo? The sense of someone whose growth during the period of distance has been real rather than performed, whose return carries something genuinely different rather than simply restated? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear what is surfacing as you receive this. The third card arrived in the position representing the specific quality of what they want to build with you, the actual vision they are carrying when they say they want it all. And I want to be specific about this rather than vague, because the specificity is what makes the message real rather than simply encouraging. This card shows an elaborate, established domestic scene, a family or a partnership in its fullness, surrounded by the specific imagery of security and abundance and the particular richness that belongs to something that has been built over real time and that has the texture of genuine, inhabited daily life rather than the polished surface of something still in its aspirational phase. The earth element belongs to tangible reality, to what actually exists in the material world, rather than what is only imagined or hoped for. And the number here represents the full completion of this element's journey, the specific arrival at everything that has been building toward when it finally lands in the material world and becomes actual, touchable, daily reality. What I am reading in this card as the vision this person is carrying toward you is specific. They are not picturing the beginning, they are picturing the established thing. The specific configuration of a shared life that has been built rather than simply begun, that has weathered things and grown stronger from them rather than simply surviving them, that has the specific depth of something that belongs to both of you in the way that only years of genuine, sustained, deliberate partnership produces. I also want to speak to what this card traditionally represents in readings about romantic intention, because it is one of the few cards in the deck that specifically and directly points toward the most established, most committed, most structurally significant form of partnership available. This is not the card of someone who wants to see you more or who wants to get serious or who wants to try again. This is the card of someone who is oriented toward the whole thing, the permanent, intentional, mutual commitment version of building a life with someone. Inhale with me, Virgo, because the fourth card is the one that speaks most directly to what this return is going to feel like when it arrives, and I want you to receive it fully rather than at a careful distance. This card shows a couple in an intimate and genuine moment, depicted with the warmth and tenderness that belongs to two people who have moved past the performance of closeness into the actual thing, the specific ease of two people who know each other well and who are entirely comfortable being known. The sun blazes in the background, the quality of light that illuminates rather than conceals, the specific brightness that belongs to moments when nothing is being hidden and nothing needs to be. This is the card of genuine, full, mutually inhabited love in one of its most specific and most beautiful expressions. What I am sensing this card is describing about the quality of what is coming toward you is something I want to name plainly. This is not coming with conditions or with the kind of careful management that sometimes characterizes a return when someone is not entirely sure. This is coming with openness, with the specific, deliberate, slightly terrifying vulnerability of someone who has decided to be fully seen rather than partially seen, who has made the internal decision to stop protecting themselves from the possible loss of this and to simply be completely present in the offering of it instead. I also want to speak to the twin nature of this card, because the specific imagery of two people together in balance, each fully themselves and fully present with the other, tells me something important about what this person is bringing in terms of where they are in their own development. This is not someone who is seeking something from you to complete themselves. This is someone who has arrived at enough wholeness within themselves that what they are offering you is not their need but their choice. They are choosing you from a place of fullness rather than approaching you from a place of lack. And that distinction matters enormously for the quality of what is possible in the partnership it produces. I want to address something about how this arrival tends to feel in the initial moments, because I think naming it accurately helps you navigate it rather than being caught off guard by the specific texture of receiving something this significant. When someone comes to you with everything, when they arrive carrying the full weight and the full vision and the full vulnerability of wanting the permanent, comprehensive thing rather than the partial, provisional version, the first thing that tends to happen is a kind of overwhelm that does not feel the way joy is supposed to feel in your imagination of it. It can feel almost too large, almost more than can be integrated quickly, almost, strangely, more exposing than comfortable, because being wanted completely requires being seen completely. And being seen completely is one of the most genuinely exposing experiences available to a person, regardless of how much they also want it. I want you to be patient with that initial overwhelm if it comes. It is not a signal that something is wrong or that you do not actually want this. It is the specific, appropriate response of someone encountering something genuine and significant. Let it arrive. Let it be what it is for a moment before you try to process it into something more manageable. The fullness of it is part of what makes it real, and real things sometimes take a moment to absorb. I also want to say something specifically, Virgo, about this moment. There will be a part of your mind that begins assessing immediately, checking the claim against the evidence, running the analysis of whether this matches what has been demonstrated over time rather than simply what is being said. I am not asking you to silence that part. It is one of the things that makes you who you are. But I am asking you to also notice what is happening in the part of you that is not the mind, what is happening in the part that simply feels, because the feeling part of you has information too, and it deserves to be consulted alongside the analysis rather than overridden by it. The fifth card arrived in the position of what this opening fully toward produces, what the version of your life looks like that becomes available when you receive what is being brought with the full openness it deserves. And I want to describe it in a way that honors what I actually saw rather than softening it into something more modest. This card shows two cups raised together, two figures facing each other with the quality of mutual recognition at its most complete, the winged figure hovering between them at the point where their cups nearly meet and above the whole scene, something that in traditional readings is associated with the highest possible blessing of a union. This is the card of the genuine, complete, mutually recognized, divinely witnessed partnership of two people who see each other fully and who choose each other in the full knowledge of what they are seeing. What I am sensing in this card is something I want to say without qualifying. What becomes available when you both lean fully into this is the real thing, not an approximation of it, not a version that is good enough and that you have made peace with being good enough. The actual, genuine, fully inhabited, mutually chosen, completely real version of the connection that has always existed between you in its most honest, most alive, most fully expressed form. I also want to speak to the winged figure in this card because it carries something important about the quality of the union being described. In traditional readings, this figure represents a blessing that arrives alongside the recognition of two people for each other, the sense that what they are creating between them has a significance that extends beyond the personal and private, that is witnessed and honored by something larger than either of them individually. I am sensing that what exists between you carries exactly this quality, that the specific resonance of this particular connection has always been of a different register than the ordinary, and that this return represents the moment when that larger significance finally becomes legible in the practical, material, daily terms of an actual shared life, rather than remaining only in the felt but unnamed territory of something that never quite arrived at its full expression. The life on the other side of this full reception is one where you are genuinely, completely partnered with someone who has done the work to deserve it, who brings themselves in their most whole and real form, and who wants to build with you in the specific way that produces something neither of you could have produced separately. That is what has its face turned toward you right now. That is what is moving in your direction. Before I close, I want to say something directly about what you deserve, because I think this is the thing that most needs to land clearly before anything else. You deserve everything, not as an encouragement or a platitude, as an honest assessment of what someone with your particular combination of depth, precision, genuine warmth, and sustained unperformative devotion actually merits in return. You have never been someone who does things partially. You do not love partially or invest partially or show up partially. When you choose something, you choose it completely. And the quality of attention and care and genuine commitment you bring to the things and people that matter to you is something very few people are equipped to fully appreciate. This person has arrived at an appreciation of it, full, genuine, earned appreciation, produced through the specific experience of understanding what it means to not have it available in their daily life and what it would mean to have it fully available. They know what they have been missing, and what they want is all of it. You deserve to say yes to that. Not cautiously, not with 17 qualifications, with the specific openness of someone who has been offered what they actually wanted by someone who has earned the right to offer it. That moment is here. If this reading landed somewhere real, somewhere that a guarded part of you was resisting and a truer part of you was saying yes, please share it with a Virgo who might be standing at the edge of something significant and who needs to hear that what is coming is genuinely worth stepping toward. And leave a comment. I want to hear who came to mind and whether the timing of this reading feels significant to where you actually are. I read every single comment, and I hold what is shared in this space with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo, they are not coming back to see how things go. They are coming back to make it permanent. Be ready to receive what you have always deserved. All of it.